Good evening and welcome to TDM Talk Show. Our guest is a well-established local artist and curator. Graduated in Fine Arts from Chinese Cultural University of Taiwan, Gigi has been at the helm of the Ox Warehouse project, a hub for cutting-edge art in Macau. Gigi, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.
Let me start by asking you, how hard is it to make a living out of art in Macau?
I think on general, we don't have really established market for arts.
Yes.
It's the hardest part. And else is we're very small here, and you don't have, enough support somehow. Not only from government or financial support. Yes, it's the hardest for me.
Yeah.
But it's good that Macau was very quiet place. It's good for creation.
So you feel Macau is you were born in Hong Kong, but you've been based in Macau.
Yeah, actually the family has been here for long. Yeah, I just born in Hong Kong.
Yes. I mean, you were born in you were born in Hong Kong, and you've been based here for for an early age. What makes you feel that Macau is a conducive place for creation?
I think before I went to study, it was very quiet, and you don't need to worry about you don't have space to make your stuff, creating anything, and the life was very simple. And after around this 10 to 15 years, I think it's harder. It's not that quiet.
It's not that
busy
quiet.
city.
It's very busy.
Yeah, life becoming busier than before.
Yeah. And for an artist, there's pros and cons of the new situation, right? What is for the so-called new Macau over the past 10 to 15 years, what has changed positively? What about the flip side of it for an artist?
For positive?
Yes.
I think it's good that Macau become more well-known than before. And artists has more platform to show our work, even exchange project going out to other cities. It's quite good that because everything is linking up with other countries, not like before. Macau is quite isolated and small place. But on the other hand, I think the costing is rising a lot for creation. Even if you rent a studio, it's very hard. And it's not easy to get all the material you need for creation. Even the oldest shop for selling material closed.
Some have closed and...
Yeah, because the business was not good.
So you have to resort to mainland China or Taiwan?
Depends on what material you need. Yeah.
Your first solo exhibition was 10 years ago.
Yes.
All About Time was the title. What has changed in your life as an artist, in your work over the past decade?
I think for what important for me is the same. Time is a really interesting subject for me. I quite like science. If I'm not an artist, maybe I would be a scientist or something like that. So I think this topic is really, you never find an answer. For an artist, sometimes we are looking for some answer for something, you don't know. So this topic I have been from 2008 till now, I'm still researching on it. But the way I create, the form of my art have been changing. From painting to installation and video, even interactive multimedia now.
Yeah, you are a multifaceted artist, and you were just sharing that with us. Painting was your main focus for a period of time, and now you evolved into other fields, right? What attracts you when it comes to multimedia, and to what extent do you continue focused on painting?
Multimedia for me is really attractive because, as I just say, I like science and something like technology. And these are something really close to our life. You cannot reject even your phone. They are developing very fast. All the tools you are using is renewing. So as for me as an artist, if you want to create, I like to use something really convenient, new, and up to date, and very close to my life. So I think multimedia, you cannot reject it.
And there's more and more talents in this field, right? You've been in touch with young talents via your associations, workshops, etc. How do you see the scene in Macau?
For multimedia art?
Yes.
Till now, I don't see really many people working on this. I think one problem is the technical problem. You need to study quite a lot of things and do some testing. And the other way is the market. I think some artists really concerned on painting is the major form of art in the art market. Easy to sell and easy to exhibit. For multimedia, there are lots of technical problems when you exhibit.
But do you see people
doing
more open to it or still more
Actually,
traditional?
people like it. I think they like to, for the audience, they like to interact with this kind of work. But for artists, not really many really working on this kind of work. Even sound art, only few artists was doing
Sound
this.
art, yes.
Yeah.
That's even more
More
specific.
abstract and
Yes. You said, I've come across this quotation that one of the problems, at least several years ago, about 10 years ago, is that there was still this misconception in Macau that art was either boring, insignificant, or at least not too significant, I shall say. In terms of awareness, have you noticed any change? Are people or the institutions, government, society, companies, sponsors more, prone to lend some support to artists or not so much?
I think government is doing quite a lot on supporting art, also art education, and sending artists out for exchange project. And I think it's quite, how to say, it's positive for the artists.
Art education.
Yeah.
This
But
is
can be more.
Yes. You'd like to see more. What's missing in Macau?
I think we don't have a really independent art school. And also the way, the way we teach is still very traditional. Even art, you don't need to teach art. Just provide an environment. Or like some university, they only have a studio. If you need some sculpture technical, there are some people guiding you how to finish the technology part, but they are not teaching you how to make artwork. And Macau, I think they're still sitting in the classroom. Yes.
So it's still literally old school, right?
Hi.
in some ways. You graduated in fine arts, and this leads me to the question, would you like to see a fine arts academy or school in Macau? Do we need?
I think it's good to have one, but depends how, how the people run this school and what concept they put in this school. What is the concept of art school is important. You are teaching people to paint, or you're just guiding them or enlightening them to do something. It's different. It's my experience. My professor, he never teach us how to paint or do something, but always have some discussion, and you have to be critic in an open area. Everybody listening to maybe you critique my work. I have to respond and say, I think it's a very good way to have a communication. And this will make you think more about why you do this work and how you tell people your message through this artwork.
And do you see Macau local artists having this kind of environment, discussing openly or not?
Very few.
Yeah.
Very few.
You were saying it all comes down to the concept of, let's say, an art school or a fine art school, a standalone one. What kind of concept would think would work well in Macau? So Macau could be unique or could have some sort of added value?
I think for Macau, if you we are very rich and if you make a very nice school with everything, it's easy. But the software is the main, is the spirit of the school.
The human software
Yeah,
people,
human
right?
source, which kind of lecturer you invite, or how you, I mean, for people, the student to enroll, which student you choose them.
And do you think there would be enough people, students interested in
Art?
in arts, or
Not really, but we should try. I think, the city should try to open this for people. Because some people think art is very far away from us, not related to real life. Maybe the parents doesn't want the student to do that, to be an artist.
you think there's still this prejudice?
Some, not really like 10 years before, 20 years before. Better, I think it's improving. People are more open to art, design, or creative thing.
This also leads me to something that you've been involved in, which is community art. You've been doing a lot of these community art projects. I think it's important.
Several, yeah.
Tell us about a couple of interesting cases and projects that you've been involved in.
Okay, for that, the idea come up was I was thinking about the project for Ox Warehouse in, I think it's 2013 or 14. And suddenly I found it's boring to do exhibition in the same venue. And I think art should be more close to the daily life, not in only something on the wall or in a gallery. And people doesn't have time to walk into the Ox Warehouse or the museum, and they're working all day long. So I think it's good to bring art to them. So I start this idea and try to get, the first time we have around 12 artists to go to the Janeiro. Yeah, this is the location we chose. Because I was raised up there, I'm very familiar with
It's an old district. Is it an old?
How to say that? Yeah, we call Berlin.
Yes.
Yeah.
So-
It's a market and a temple.
So the old Macau, old districts, right? Of course.
And it's a very busy market. So people never have time to listen to you telling them about art. But we just let the artists to react with the
Interact,
people there.
right?
Yeah, interaction.
And what about the feedback? This is an interesting
Was good.
project.
They like it, and they still asking, "Hey, how come you're not doing something more after art activities or workshop?"
So this was done in 2000.
2013 and 14. We have 2 years there.
What in the same thread? I mean, what would you like to do next in terms of community art?
Yes, I'm going to do another one.
What's your next? What's your next?
The next is something related to recycle, reuse. We don't want to waste some material, and I'm still working with the old partners. Some artists participate in the last one, so this time the topic is like we don't want to waste any material from your life, and it should be sustainable to use something again and again. Yeah, this is the idea.
Linking art to this concept of reusing and recycling, right?
Yes.
I mentioned at the beginning of our talk, actually in the intro, the Ox Warehouse project, and I'd like to talk about it because it had an impact in the local art scene over the years, over the past 10 to 15 years.
I think more than 10, but the location is around 15.
Yes, that's right. What have you learned? I mean, throughout these years, I guess you had a number of stories to share with us
Ox Warehouse?
of the Ox Warehouse project.
Yes, it was really an amazing experience working with several curators, and I think the way we work is really good because we discuss every time what project we want to do, which kind of project we shouldn't do there. Sometimes we have a little bit argument, but everybody respect to each other. So the way we work is really, I think, very fair. Yeah, and then we choose something, and sometimes we help each other to finish the project. And the interesting is, Oswell is really a very open space for all kind of work, all kind of artwork. I mean, artists. They came from different countries, and some are performance, music, and experimental art is really interesting. Something always new. Yeah.
It's a group of artists, a group of local and volunteers, right?
Yes, we have a quite stable group there for more than 10 years working for this group.
Well, and then you have to squeeze in time to dedicate to this project, right?
Yes. And we have some, we hire two administrator, helper. They take care of the daily work, but we provide some project idea, and then we work together.
What kind of subsidies, support have you received over the years? From which institutions?
Mainly is from IACM before, and Macau from the South.
Yeah,
also
Macau
ICM,
Foundation and the Civic and Municipal
mainly
Affairs.
these three. Yeah.
And the Cultural Affairs Bureau as
yes.
well, right?
ICM.
Yes,
Yeah.
I mean, yes, that's
The
what
venue.
you're saying exactly. The Cultural Affairs Bureau.
Yeah.
And what's but now we don't have Ox Warehouse anymore working as it was. So it's under renovation, and we're going through a change, right?
Yes, because the building is really old, but we are not sure after the renovation we will go back there or not. So the team is still there, and we are looking for some place to move on. We have to do exhibition, exchange project, and yeah, so we're looking for a place.
So probably you're telling us that you may not be able to return to the same venue. Is that correct?
It's really unsure. Yeah.
Who will decide? What I mean,
I think the ICM
yeah,
maybe.
the Cultural Bureau, right?
Yes.
You'd like to stay in the same place because it's a we're talking about an old slaughterhouse which was turned into an arts hub, right? It's the location near the Canidrome and by the FITK district. What's your take on the location and the meaning of being located there?
The meaning there?
Yeah.
I think the location is not the, how to say, it's not really the first choice about how you run the art space. Of course, the location is helpful. If it's good, the traffic is easy, but it's not, depends on what you do and people will come to see your work. And this Oswell, we have been working there for more than 10 years, so we really like to stay there. Of course, we want to stay there.
If not,
Yeah.
if that's not possible, what are you
So
planning?
that's why we are looking for some place, maybe smaller, maybe we rent a shop or something like that.
But you were just telling us a while ago that's not easy because of property prices, right?
Yeah, that's why it's very hard to run an art group now. Yeah, and I'm not sure if government have some other policy about this issue.
But do you think there should be, some people have talked about the need for Macau to have a cultural district where properties are made available, venues for local creators, for the creative industry, for the cultural industries, for artists. And of course, St. Lazarus was somehow designated as a potential hub for that.
For me, I don't think it's a really successful idea to run art like this. Like people like to rent the building and they rent it out to the artists, like it's a hub or they share the space. But it's just something related to property. It's not really related to creative industry or art. Yes, everybody can rent a place. And the people who run this project, they ask some money for them to rent this place, and then they spare it to the artist. And I don't think this really helps how art develop.
So
but
what
it helps property.
I see. I
Help a
see.
lot.
But then what could be done in that respect? I mean, to make it, you know, more affordable for local artists to rent a place, to people like you and your association and their group, your group, to do something.
I think it's a really complicated situation. If you have a very healthy art market, you will have gallery. Gallery is rich enough to rent a place, and even they can split some studio for artists to help them to make their work and sell out. So it's like a cycle. Yeah. But if we don't have this kind of art market to support, government cannot do everything for artists. We can just help a little bit, but
what about you know, private companies and
I think
other
private
people?
company will help more than that, because there's quite a lot of example in different cities. Like China, in different cities, there are some project like this. Taiwan is very successful, and the government is supporting a lot. They give out some very huge place for them to run, for the business, like enterprise, to run this area, because they have their mindset for how to earn money to survive, to let the artist survive.
So you need to monetize art,
Yeah.
at least to some extent. That's what we're saying, to make it sustainable. That's your.
Yeah, sustainable. I think from the past, art is always related to commercial. And commercial help art to sustain and develop. Yeah. In Europe was like that.
If you look at history, yes.
Yes.
For sure. So in terms of cultural policies, in addition to education, more subsidies, right? What kind of suggestions would you put forth to move things forward so Macau can be taken to a high level?
I think I have a quite interesting idea. Like Macau can do something like a really big international art biennial.
Oh, yes.
Something like that. We are very small cities, easy to handle. You have a lot of historical place, like Italy. It's really successful for 100 years. Yeah.
Something
maybe
like
something. So you have
at an
to,
international scale,
yeah,
right?
you have to input some artists from other country, and the local artists can learn and exchange culture. You need to exchange, and then you will absorb something from others, and you will grow up. So I think it's more, should be more open to the world.
So you can bring these talents, and so Macau can have this kind of event.
And you can go out. If your work is good, people will ask you to join art exhibition in everywhere. Yeah.
And you, in addition to the Ox Warehouse project, you also had the Borderless Arts Association,
yeah.
right? This has a lot to do with the outside world as well, of course,
Yes.
linkages, right?
Yeah.
What have you been doing in this respect? I mean, yourself, you studied in Taiwan. There's a link with Taiwan, of
Yeah.
course. Hong Kong, for sure. Many other countries, China,
also.
right?
Even we have been working with East Timor also, because we're a member there.
Oh, okay.
That's why Borderless Arts was really an interesting idea at the beginning. We start up with another friend, is not an artist, but he likes art a lot, and asked, why don't you make an association and link up artists to do something? So we start really just like that, 10 years already. And once we have quite a lot of artists for overseas, Portugal, America, Singapore, Taiwan, quite a lot, and China, and like East Timor. We have member went there and stayed there, so we have connection. And after we have been changing the way how to run this association, and we promote quite a lot of multimedia workshop. We have been organizing multimedia workshop for, I think, more than 7 years. So we try to promote this kind of artwork. And after we have changed, just this year, the committee has changed. Some new artists come in, and some left because of their personal reason. So we are going to do
You have new blood,
more
right?
things, more connection with outside.
Now to wrap up our talk. At the beginning, I was taking you 10 years back in time to talk about your first solo exhibition, all about time, talking about time,
Yes.
right? And if you look ahead, look at your crystal ball, if I may say, where do you see yourself as an artist and as someone who's a proactive member of the local scene in Macau in 10 years' time? And what do you think may happen? Are you optimistic about the future development of art scene in Macau?
I think the future is going to be better because more people involved and they take art as a serious thing now. Not like when I was very small, people say, hey, don't be an artist, you will be very poor. People don't say this anymore. And government is really want to support this field. And I think the important is artists themselves. They need to carry on no matter how hard it is. Because sometimes it's really hard to be an artist. You have a lot to do, your life, your work, and maybe you don't have chance to exhibit sometimes. Nobody see your work. Maybe people don't like your thing. Doesn't mean you don't make good work. You know, you have to match the curator or the buyer. And if we have more people to, I think the critic is very important. We don't have people to write on art.
Critics, like
Yeah.
reviews and then,
Review is important.
So there's, so people can.
I think more and more people are learning this from somewhere, art admin and like art marketing. If these people come back to Macau, I think we have something new, and art scenes will be more developed. It's better.
And it should also be more in the media, I guess, right? Because if you want exposure and reviews, newspapers, magazines,
yes,
TV,
media is also very important. Yes, because if media don't care on this, nobody knows what you're doing.
Well, and that's why we brought you here, right?
It's my
thank you very
pleasure.
much. Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
Gigi Lee, for joining us. Pleasure to have you on the show.
Me too, my pleasure. Thank you.
And to you at home, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back next week.